Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Sunday night special edition DJ Live Chat here from the Disc Jockey News TV network. I'm John Young from the Disc Jockey News TV, and tonight my guest is Mr. Page 6. Now, if you look up Mr. Page 6 online, you're going to find some things that are probably not exactly what Mr. Page 6 stands for and is all about. But tonight we have our version of Mr. Page 6. Ron Ruth, good evening.
Good evening, John. Man, you are just full of energy tonight, man. I mean, to tell you, wow, for an 8:30 on a Sunday night, you're ready to go, aren't you?
It is. I am. I've been looking forward to this because after our last one, you know, I've had so much quality feedback from people who were excited about our last show. They loved what we did. They loved the concept. And okay, there were 3 people who sent messages.
But I got like 2. So yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
So you know, we had this rush.
Yeah, and it was awful. It took me all day to answer the emails.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know after the second email, and that was when it said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was sending one to someone else." But so tonight we're going to talk about 5 ways to wow your wedding couples. And,
absolutely.
And this is kind of built up from your Audio Amazing presentation. You're going to be, or the workshop you're going to be doing in Las Vegas here in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. I think 2 weeks. Today would have been the first. Yeah, 2 weeks from today would have been it will be the first full day of the Audio Amazing Love Story Workshop at Mobile Beat. You bet.
Okay,
we're really looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, that's going to be something I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot of good hands-on time. We've talked about what it is. Give us the elevator speech for those who are not sure what the Audio Amazing thing is, and then we're going to jump right into our tips tonight.
The Audio Amazing Love Story is a love story presentation that defies the norm, because the love story is actually told in the bride and groom's own voices and words. So pretty much as a storyteller, I'm a storyteller, but I'm also more of a narrator, so that I have the bride and groom talking about how they met, when they met, where they met, and all of the fun stuff about a wedding, a relationship that most wedding guests don't know, like when was the first kiss, who said I love you first, all the way up through the proposal, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of the proposal. Of course, all of that is done in a meeting, is set up through my very first meeting with a couple, when I interviewed them in detail about their relationship, and I record it, and then from that I'm able to take little bits and pieces of what they've said and add that to the story, and it's so much fun, and the guests love it, and so do the bride and groom. And it's actually, it would be wow number 6 if I were actually going to be talking in great detail about that tonight, as far as something that you can do that would wow your wedding couples and their friends and family. It's just something that garners rave reviews all the time.
Very nice, very nice. And again, we'll put that link in the description. That's the Audio Amazing, the whole process, the workshop that's going to be happening in 2 weeks in Las Vegas. So if you guys are interested, we'll put that link in the description, and you guys can check that out after our live stream.
And I still have seats, so hey.
Well, we all have a seat, Ron, and I just don't want you to talk about my seat, okay? I'm a little sensitive about that. Ron, 5 ways to wow your wedding couples. I wanted you to put a list together, and you did, and I'm excited to hear this list. So let's just jump right in. Give us.
I think the number one way to wow your wedding guests actually starts in the very first consultation you have with them, and that's in the sales consultation, of a couple of things. The most important part of that sales consultation is to develop a relationship, a trusting relationship with the couple, meaning that instead of just jumping right in with what you do and how you do it, talk about the why of what you do. I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek. I believe that's the way he pronounces his last name. And he does a TED Talk called Getting to Why. And if you've never watched it on YouTube, I highly advise it. It's like a 20-minute conversation that he has. And he talks about how most companies talk about the how and the what of what they do. And that's, a lot of DJs are guilty of that. I don't know about you, John, but when I first started sales, that's what I did. It was like, you know what? I got this big, powerful sound system, and I got lights, and you know what? I'm going to make people dance. but nobody ever talked about the why of what they do.
Yeah.
And that really starts in a conversation at the very beginning of a sales consult, is in develop asking the couple about themselves, finding out as much as you possibly can in a very short period of time. I mean, you don't want to go into too big of details, but by letting the couple know that you care about them, you care about their relationship, you want to know more about them, because that's part of, at least for me, that's part of my why. My why is to assure that, every couple has, I believe that every couple is deserving of an extraordinary wedding celebration. And my goal is to make that happen for them. And the way I can convince them that that's going to work is if I prove to them, if I show to them that I care about them. Whereas if I just jump into a conversation about what I do and how I do it, I'm just another salesperson. I'm just
Hmm.
another DJ. And I think that's one of the things that probably differentiates me from a lot of other DJs, is that I really do take the time to try to get to know them. I've said it before in writing and in my articles on page 6. Um, but I've said before in my articles, I'm not the greatest DJ in the world, nor am I the greatest master of ceremonies in the world. Doesn't mean I don't try to be. It doesn't mean that I'm not good at what I do. It just means that if I'm honest with myself, I just say, you know what? I'm not the best at those things. The reason my couples contract me is because they trust me to live up to the promises I make to them.
Hmm.
And that all begins in that beginning conversation. Not coming across as a phony, being someone that is very sincere about listening to what it is that they want in their wedding reception, and offering them ideas in order to make those things happen for them. So that's actually where it begins, is in that very first part. So that when they decide that they do want you, they're not hiring what you do or how you do it. They're hiring you, the person,
Hmm.
because they have trust and faith in what you've told them, and that you have the expertise, and um, you're going to be what I've said before. Instead of it being a DJ client relationship, I look at my couples as being creative partners, and by being a creative partner to what they're doing, that tells them, without actually having to say it out loud, that I have just as much of a vested interest in the success of their event as they do.
Hmm.
I want it to be successful as well.
For sure, for sure. And I think that whole concept of turning things around and selling it from the what and the how to the, we typically we used to sell the what to the how to the why is what his presentation was, and turning that around and selling it from the why to the how to the what
What? Right. Exactly. Yeah.
becomes so valuable in this situation. And it's a little difficult. I think he uses the analogy or the visualization of the of Apple, how they sell their phones, and they're not selling a technically advanced phone which will do a lot of cool things for you. They're selling you the lifestyle.
Right. And their why is, we believe in breaking the status quo,
Yeah.
and we believe in thinking differently. We happen to create beautiful, easy to use computers, and they're beautifully designed. You want to buy one. And that's the way that I'm kind of paraphrasing
Yep.
what he says, but he calls it the golden circle, working from the inside, which is the why, and then the outer circles is the how, and then on the outside of that circle is the what. And again, I think, for anybody that really wants to appreciate that, um, I would say watch that, but not only watch it, but experiment with it yourself
For
in
sure.
a sales consult. You know, I've been writing my recent articles have been about, and they will continue to be about the rest of this year, about the past two articles have been about developing your purpose. What do you believe in? What do you stand for? What is it that you are? Your purpose is who you are, without being able to help being who you are. It's not, if you believe that your purpose as a business owner is to make money, that's a result, as Simon says, and it's always a result. If you are really sincere in your purpose, and if you deliver on your promises that you make to your couples, that's going to come back to you in referrals. And as those referrals start to roll in, then you can start, maybe increasing whatever it is that you're charging for your services, because people now are buying you rather than buying all the stuff
Right.
that you do,
And that stuff is, as you mentioned the circles, that the Y
Right.
in the inside, that stuff was what we all spent a lot of time trying to sell around the outside. More lights, they were over here. The more
Right.
speakers are over here, and microphones were over here, and 10 million songs was up there around the outer side of the
Well, I
circle.
remember the day when I used to tell people how many watts I had.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I bring like a gazillion watts. Like
Yeah,
that
exactly.
made some. But to be honest with you, John, and this is this is the practice of doing this has helped me get to a point where when I sit down with a couple, I don't even talk about a sound system anymore. The topic only comes up in a review of everything I'm going to bring to the reception, but it's kind of like a matter of fact thing. I bring a Bose sound system, boom, move on. I provide you with basic dance floor lighting, boom, move on, and that's at the very end of our conversation. And rarely, because of the way the conversation goes, and I think that's another important part of this, is that this isn't you just talking. This is actually having a conversation, and not totally off the beaten path, but just slightly. And I promise I won't go off too far. But I know that you love it when I say those words, because all of a sudden I can see John's eyes going, "Oh God, now where's he going to go?"
I was just wondering if I could go over there and grab a cup of coffee. But
Yeah. But really, to be honest, if you have an issue with something like that, if it's really hard for you just to have a conversation with somebody, take an improv class.
Yep.
I'm dead serious. I can't. I'm like an improv junkie now. I've been doing this, taking classes now for a little over. I'm in my third year, and to be honest, it has helped me immensely, because it's not just the conversation, it's the ability. Pardon me. It's the ability to actually be able to listen.
oh, for sure.
To really hear what somebody's saying to you, rather than having them talk while your mind is going, okay, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? What am I going to say next? And if you're having a conversation with a couple, rather than going through that sales process, it's an entirely different dynamic. And I posted in promotion of this conversation, 86% of people will pay more for a product or service from businesses that provide a better experience. Part of that experience is the trust, is the confidence that they have in you.
Yeah.
That's really where that experience begins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what all the wow is. We use the word wow, but that wow is providing an extraordinary client experience, and one that they'll pay much more for.
Okay. So we've got our first one.
That's the first one.
We've got 4 left.
Only 4?
Only 4.
Wow.
I made the list short. I was thinking 10, but it's like, let's go 5, because then we'll have a nice.
Who knows? Maybe I'll just go totally off the beaten path later, and we'll only get up to 4.5.
Jeffrey get him at 4.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, there you go.
What's our second one?
Well, the second one is that now that you've contracted them, and this is the big part. Now that you have them, what are you going to do with them? In other words, okay, so you book a client, and so I'm old school, and go ahead, John. I'll just beat you to the punch. No, Ron, you're just old. I'm old school. I know what you were thinking. I could feel it through my little earpieces here. But seriously, I'm old school. I'm of the belief I don't have online planning tools. I don't want them. I'm not a fan of them, because as much as you think that they're as much of a convenience as you may believe they are for the couple, those online planning tools do absolutely nothing to further a relationship.
I would agree.
It's
tougher.
God love anybody that's using online planning tools and can get away with it, and is making lots and lots of money. I just can't do it.
I think the point becomes is that if people are using the planning tools as a way to avoid having the communication, I think they can work together. They can coincide, especially if you've got multiple DJs and more events
Right.
than you
Yeah.
and I do. But if you don't use that, if you use that as a crutch or a wall that you can use to keep between you and the client, then what Ron's going to talk about next is not for you, because you're using the tools and you're using these things inappropriately. But they can go together if you want. But this is the important part. The planning
Yeah.
tools are out there.
And as I said, I'm not knocking any company or anybody that uses online planning tools or provides them. It's just there's always more than one way to skin a cat. My way just doesn't involve the tools, and the reason for that, pardon me, the reason for that is because for me it's a continuing of a relationship building for that reception. If I can't have face to face with my couples throughout the entire planning process, and I mean and every detail of it, then in my opinion, I don't believe that their event is going to be nearly as successful as I think they want it to be, as I
Right.
believe they want it to be. It's kind of like, even for me, I'm not really good with, and again, it's just being able to say, part of one's purpose and part of one providing this experience is not only understanding and respecting your strengths, but also understanding your weaknesses. And one of my weaknesses would be I don't do well with out of town clients, with people that I can't work with one on one, face to face, throughout the planning process. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to this whole thing, and I will move forward, but I want to come back just one more time on purpose, because purpose is a non-negotiable. Whatever your purpose is, whatever your belief system is, whatever it is that the promise that you make to a couple, that is a non-negotiable. And if you have a weakness that's not going to allow you to be able to deliver on that promise, then I'm sorry, but walk away from it.
Yep.
I mean, I walk away from couples I know I'm not going to be able to spend time with, just because it just doesn't work for me. Um, but but again, it comes back, going back to, once you have a client, what are you going to do with them? Well, you want to continue that relationship. Sometimes a couple will book 6, 8, 12 months out. Do you wait until that the first time you need to meet with them to be in contact with them? No, you reach out to them, and maybe on a 30-day basis or on a 2-week basis, whatever you feel comfortable with, and just say, hey, just checking in, making sure everything's okay. Is there anything I can do to be of service to you today? And instead of, and this is a little thing, but again, it comes back to the wow. And I learned this from a friend of mine that works for the Marriott hotels. They never end an email with, contact me if you have any questions. Their emails always end with, what else can I do to be of service to you today?
Nice. That's a nice touch.
Right. And I love it. And when somebody asks me to make a change on an itinerary, or wants to do something different than what we previously discussed, my email always says, my pleasure. It's my pleasure to do that. I used to say, no problem. But
Yep.
then somebody told me, and I really don't remember who it was, but it was at a conference, I believe. Somebody
Yep.
said, just by saying no problem, you're implying there was a problem in the
Yep.
first place. And to me, words mean something. They
Yep.
always mean something. And it goes back to why I call a client a creative partner rather than a client, because it changes the dynamic of the relationship. So after you have your client, getting back on track, John,
Yep.
sorry, is to make sure that you stay in contact with them and let them know that you're always available to help them out whenever they may need that assistance, and be willing to do, if they want something from you, don't let it sit for longer than just, if you can, I try to make changes immediately rather than letting them sit on my desk for a long period of time. If somebody contacts me by email, I'm boom, I'm right back at them. I'm going to be attending this conference in Vegas coming up in a couple of weeks, the Mobile Beat Conference. I know I'm going to be out of my office for almost an entire week. I've already contacted all the couples I'm working with within the near future after I return to tell them I'm going to be out of town.
Yes.
I'm going to be attending this conference, and I'm still available to you if you need anything, but just understand it may take me a little longer to be able to communicate with you. And almost, well, not almost, all of them understand that. And they
Sure.
appreciate having and knowing that in advance. So if they're freaking out over something, they know it's going to take me just a little bit longer.
To get, yeah.
Right, right. And for the most part, I I keep my couples, I tell my couples, if you're freaking out, not necessarily in those words, but if you're troubled, then I'm not doing my job. You need to tell me if something's bothering you so that I can help you with it. Because
Yeah.
the last thing I want is for a bride to get stressed out or a groom
For
to get
sure.
stressed out.
For sure.
So that's kind of another second way to wow is just, now that you have that client, staying in constant contact with them all the way up to that point of where you're first going to meet with them. Always let them know that you're available for their needs. Be prompt in responding, and just, again, take care of them.
Okay, that gives us our first is trust. Second is being in contact. Number 3.
Okay, well, number 3, regardless of whether you believe in the audio amazing love story or if it's something that you want to do in the first place, my suggestion is make your first meeting with your couple to do nothing more than just get to know each other, get to know who they are. Go through the process of a love story interview, even if you're not going to do a love story interview. And the reason for that is because, well, first off, couples love to talk about their relationship. Brides love to tell you the stories. It's so much fun to listen to the interaction between a bride and groom when one starts to tell a story about one thing, and the other person it says, no, that's not the way that happened, and you get a different story, and it's just it's fun conversation. But through that conversation, and again, it's a conversation. Before I move forward, by that I mean, when I'm talking to a couple and I'm pulling all this information from them or interviewing them to get this information, it's not just a matter of sitting down and going, okay, so when did you meet? Where'd you meet? How'd you meet? It is literally a conversation. And if they say something that I can relate to, like if they talk about their love for the Royals, Kansas City Royals, which, by the way, will be returning to the ALCS championship again this year, and possibly the World's. And well, no, if they win the ALCS, they're definitely going to be back at the World Series. So three-peat, hashtag three-peat. But if they start talking about the Royals, I love the Royals as well. So I mean, it's easy to kind of talk about, did you go to this game, or what do you think of this player? It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Treat it as a conversation. But through this process, what's also happening is you're pulling out information from these individuals that when you finally do sit down with them for the planning meeting, which for me is like the second time we meet, I can offer them ideas for their wedding reception that are going to be more specific to the two of them than I can if I'm just shotgunning them ideas that they may or may not like. Because I don't know, if I don't know who they are, then that's my only other option, is to say, well, here's a bunch of great ideas. They may not fit your personality. I would rather say to them, hey, I think you're going to like this idea. I think that you're going to have fun with this idea. What do you think? And they have the option, certainly, of saying no, they don't like an idea, but they appreciate that I've taken the time to get to know who they are, so that as we get into the planning process, we're now truly we are now truly creative partners in this, because it's a give and take at this point. So that's kind of part 3A. 3B for me is when we actually get into the planning process, and I think most DJs would agree with this. When you meet with a couple for the planning process, a lot of times you meet right after work. and I've spoken about this before, but I think this is one of my most fun ideas. This is a fun idea and it's cheap. Okay. Uh, During that planning process, what I do is I'll order pizza to be delivered at the time that they arrive at my office.
Okay.
And the reason for that is most of them are coming straight from work. They haven't had time to eat. I want them calm, cool, and collected during the planning process. And I always say there's nothing better than planning, there's nothing more fun than planning and pizza. So I'll ask them what their favorite toppings are. I'll have it delivered at the same time that they arrive as well. And we'll sit down and we'll enjoy a couple of slices of pizza while we talk about the planning process, and not really getting into the details of it, but just a conversation of how are things going with the planning process for you. Is there anything I can help you with? If I'm doing personalized wedding party introductions, this is kind of a time when I'm looking through the bios that they've completed and given to me, so we can just kind of talk about their wedding party and have some fun. But there's something else about having pizza with a client during a planning meeting, and that is that they will open up to you. There's something about sharing a meal with anybody. People will share more information over a meal than they will just in a conversation. I don't know why. I'm not a psychology major.
It's the carbs, the comfort
Is
carbs.
that what it is? I'd be like, for me, if you just had like a candy bar with nothing but chocolates, I'd be in heaven,
You'd be talking a mile a minute, man.
Yeah, but the sugar rush would be like, but there's just something about that. And again, I think it also helps in that relationship. You're sharing a meal together. That's, even though it's just pizza, that's what friends do.
Yeah.
Friends share a meal. And it just helps that progress a little bit. Now, part 3, C and D. And this is where some of the this is where that wowing for some, let me stop for just a moment and say, I've had a lot of people say to me over time, not just DJs, but other wedding professionals, I really don't want to spend that much time with my client.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even had DJs say to me, well, my clients don't really want to spend that kind of time with me. Okay, guess what? This again comes back to purpose. In order for me to do the job that I need to do for my couples, this process has to happen, in my opinion.
Yep.
For me, in order for it to work, the entire process has to work together. If one element of the process is eliminated, if we try to take a shortcut, I won't say bad things will happen, but it's just not as comfortable for me as a performer as it would be if the entire process. And I actually feel like I'm cheating my client if I don't do every part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we talked about a first meeting,
Yep.
which is a getting to know you. We talked about a second meeting, it's a planning meeting. Third meeting for me is about a month out from a couple's wedding, is to actually go to the venue with them and do a walkthrough. Talk about the entire room layout. Where is everybody going to be situated? Where are you going to be seated? Where the VIP is going to be? Where am I going to be? And we just, in general, we talk about the overall layout of everything and talk about, this is where you're going to go when you arrive at the venue. This is where the holding room, if you will, for everyone after you've arrived, so I can come and get you an order for your introductions and all of that. These are the doors you're going to come in. Just kind of do a brief walkthrough, because we're still about a month out from their wedding. I don't expect them to remember all of it, but most of the details, especially like the holding room, they know where it is that they're supposed to go and what it is they're supposed to do. And then in that meeting, we wrap up as many loose ends as we possibly can. And again, this goes back to the wow. This is part of the client experience. I tell my couples that my goal is to be out of their hair no later than 30 days prior to their event.
I would agree. Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we're not going to have additional communication. It doesn't mean that we're going to be out of touch for that 30 days, but I want them to be able to, and this is the way I even describe it to a bride. I want you to be able to relax in that last 30 days, knowing that we're done. And for the most part, sure, there's going to be changes. There's going to be little additions of things that you're going to need to make, but as far as us having to meet again, we're done unless you want to meet again. And I'm happy. I am more than happy and I've had a couple brides say, I would be more comfortable if we meet again for just a few moments. And excuse me, I'm going to, I've been fighting a cold. I've had a couple of brides say to me that they would like to meet again. This time I'm going to mute you. So hang on a second.
Yeah.
Uh,
For those of you who are out there watching, if you've got any questions that you would like to ask Ron, by the way, we're going through the list. We're at 3.4, 3.8. I'm not exactly sure.
No, we're at 3. We're coming up on 3C.
Yeah, we're not there yet. I thought
no. Well, 3C was that walkthrough. 3D.
3D is.
Okay, and this is the one where I don't know about you, but it's, you know, we were joking earlier about getting feedback from our last conversation.
Yeah.
But this is where I honestly got like 6 to 8 emails from DJs asking me about this part, because they didn't really understand what I was talking about. 3D for me is actually going to the rehearsal and meeting with the wedding party and the bride and the groom and the family and everything, and going over the events of the next day with them. And it's just a very brief meeting, but it's just a way of being able to offer some assistance, you know, some details, so that they know when they arrive what it is that they're supposed to do, and all of that, and to make it helpful for them. Little visual aid. I don't know if you can see this or not.
Yeah, just hold it right now.
This is an itinerary card I give them. It's not all of the details of every dance song they're going to dance to and all of that, but it just gives them a basic timeline of everything that's going to happen that night. And and for those of, I've had people say, well, you give them a timeline, you know, yeah. You know, but I also tell everyone that timelines are subjective, and that anything can happen. And then on the back side of that little card that they get is the order of introductions, where it is that they're supposed to go when they arrive at the venue. And in this case, I even gave them the songs. I don't always give them the songs, but the bride asked me to, so that they would know, and along with their introductions, they would dance their way into the room. Now, 4E.
Wait a second. We haven't even gotten to 4 yet. Are we done?
Oh no, 3E. Sorry, John. I got so excited, I got ahead of myself. 3E. You'll just have to imagine with me for a moment. 3E is that I offer to the bride and groom to make place cards for their head table and for their parents, and instead of this writing being here, it would be the name of the attendant, and this sits at the table, and inside of that place card is another copy of the itinerary. So everyone knows where we are throughout the course of the evening, because they're not going to remember to bring these from the rehearsal. The rehearsal is just kind of an opportunity to give them an overview. But this also, you know, this makes it real easy for everyone, including especially those people that have important parts to play, like the best man and maid of honor that are going to be giving toast. Parents are going to be dancing with the bride and the groom. This lets them know, if not the exact time, it gives them at least an idea of what order we're going in, so that they know where we are throughout the course of the reception. So that's 3A through 3E.
Okay, and I'm going to label through the 3s as basically you're connecting with the wedding party, the bride and groom, and the wedding party. So that's why I'm labeling.
And it's also you know, connecting not only with the wedding party, but it's also all of this planning. Again, goes back to the trust factor and the confidence factor. This puts a bride and groom so totally at ease. Nobody is worrying about, you know, when we're going to do the cake cutting, when we're going to do this. You don't have the worry of people trying to reach you 2 weeks before a wedding to find out when things, you know, when are you going to meet with them to plan and all that stuff. This pretty much is, this goes back to I'm not the best DJ, not the best master of ceremonies in the world, but I am probably the most detailed DJ you ever want to meet. And that's what when my reviews come back from my couples, the surveys that I get back, that's where I get my highest marks, and it's in detail.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, why isn't it allowing me to post? It's our own Facebook chat. It won't allow me to post. Sorry.
Do we have a question?
There was a question about what if you had two weddings in one weekend?
Well, I don't. So that's fun because somebody else asked me that question through an email. You have an option if I have the luxury of having an associate that I work with, who is basically the button pusher for me, my DJ. She handles. I don't like being restricted behind a console, so I'm always out on the dance floor, usually when I'm making announcements or doing anything. And plus, with all the organization that I do, I like the flexibility of being able to move around throughout the course of an evening and making sure everything is going as planned. So if I were in that situation, what I would do is probably I would send my associate to the rehearsal for a Friday night. If I had a wedding on a Friday night, I would probably send her to that rehearsal. And chances are most rehearsals are going to be somewhere around, in my market, they're usually like 5:30 or 6. In the short amount of time it would take her to meet with a wedding party and just kind of go over everything, she'd still be at my wedding to help me, and plenty of time for when the introductions start, which probably wouldn't be till 7:30
Mm-hmm.
or 8 o'clock, somewhere in that general area. So
it can happen.
That's an option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it
If
can
you're
be.
married, yeah, if you're married and you got a wife that is a business partner or someone that wouldn't mind doing it for you, that you can train on how to do it, take them with you to a couple of meetings so that they know what it is that you say and how you say it, and what the purpose is, then I would train somebody to do that. If not, then I would say to my couples, if I don't have a wedding on Friday night, I will come to your rehearsal. If I have a wedding, obviously I can't do that. But you know what you could still do is you could still give the bride and groom a little stack of these cards and say, you know what, while you're at rehearsal, why don't you go ahead and hand these out and maybe just kind of talk about some of the things that we've talked about. If they want to do that, I still would make the place cards for them so that they would have this information on the table if they need it,
Mm-hmm.
and for the parents as well. So that would be your out, is to either train somebody else to do it, or just be honest with the couple up front and say, I try very hard to make it to the rehearsals to meet with the wedding party, but if that's not possible, here's another option.
Right. Okay, let's keep going. We need to keep. We're going to run long here, Ron. I don't want to go too long. So
Okay.
Let's go to 4.
Okay. Number 4 is that when the actual event comes around, is just making sure that throughout the course of that event that you are staying in constant contact with the bride and groom, going to them throughout the course of the evening. I make it a point right after dinner is served to go over and make sure that they have everything that they need. If they don't, if I can't find a server to take care of it for them, I will. It's just, again, making yourself available to them. If I need to leave the room for a period of time, if I want to go to the restroom or something like that, I will even tell the couple, I'm going to be leaving the room for a couple of minutes. You need anything before I go? I just want them to know that I am there at all times, and I'm there for them throughout the course of the evening. So that's probably the greatest way to continue that experience through the reception as well. Just staying in contact with them, obviously treating their guests with respect. Don't do any. I don't drink while I'm working. I don't smoke while I'm working. I don't eat while I'm working. I don't do any of that. My sole focus is on that event at all times.
For sure.
So that's an easy 4.
Yeah.
5 comes after the reception. 5 is to me, is probably one of the most important parts of all of this, and that is the reason for that is not just letting the relationship end, but continuing that relationship. When I meet with a couple, when I am doing a reception, I record everything. I set up a second computer and I'm recording the introductions, I'm recording the toast, I'm recording the love story, I'm recording any spoken word, I am recording it. And when and not only audio, recently I've been doing video recording. Just setting up a camera on a tripod. I am not competing with the videographer in any way, shape, or form. I'm just setting up a camera off on the side. I realize I'm not a professional photographer, nor do I pretend to be one. And so I record everything. And then when the event is over, I'll go back through and I will lay the audio over the video, because video recording in a venue usually comes with a lot of reverb and echo. So I'm taking the audio and I'm putting it with the video. And after the reception is over, I will take a thumb drive and I'll put all the video and audio on it. And I will send it to my couples with a thank you note and my post-event survey. And trust me, when they get all the videos, your post-event surveys are going to be awesome, just because you were there to take the video, especially if they didn't spring for a videographer on their own. And even if they did spring for a videographer, it's going to be months before they see any video. So I get first crack at getting them all the fun stuff on video for them to watch.
Cool. Okay, Ron, I've been taking notes, so let's go through and review so I can make sure that I have everything.
Okay.
Number one was basically to build trust in your first meeting with them.
Absolutely.
Number two is
trust, build relationship.
Build trust, build relationship. Number two was to connect with them personally, so that you get to know them and they get to know you. Number three is kind of building a little bit with the getting to know them. Then let's see.
Well, and just, proving your worth through the detail that you put into this event.
Yeah. Three overall,
and personalizing it.
Three
right.
overall. Let me get back. Three overall is kind of connecting with all the important people. I wanted to call it that instead, and that means getting to know the couple, getting to going to the meeting or the rehearsal dinner. Let's see, with the walkthrough at the venue. You talked about sharing a meal with the couple to get them together to talk about their different things. And then, of course, you talked about helping to connect at the wedding party with your little place cards and your information for the itineraries and such.
Right.
Okay. Now that takes us up to 4. 4 is keeping in contact with the couple the day of the event. Okay.
I even tell the couple, I say, you know what, if and I'll add this just kind of as a caveat, is that I will tell a couple at rehearsal on Friday evening, say, look, if for some reason tomorrow you need to get a hold of me, or tonight, the easiest way to do it is through text message, because I don't always have access to my email, and I don't get email alerts, but I do get text message alerts. So if you need something, just text me.
Yep.
Boom, and it'll be taken care of right away.
And then number 5 is to connect with them after the event. In this particular case, you were talking about the audio that you record and the video you're now recording, getting that to them immediately afterwards with a nice thank you.
Right, and your post-event survey. Survey your clients.
And the survey.
Always survey. If you're not surveying, I don't know why you're not. And I'm not talking about SurveyMonkey. I'm talking about doing a regular post-event survey. And John, I'm going to offer this.
Sure.
Because I think I've done it in the past in my articles. But if you would like a copy of my post-event survey, I'd be more than happy to share it with you. Just email me and I will send you a copy of it, because it's not a typical survey of 1 through 10. It's more emotional as far as the responses are concerned. Ron was engaging, entertaining, boring, dull, whatever. So instead of just giving you a 1 through 10, because nobody really knows what's a 5. I mean,
exactly.
Find a 5. So if you want a copy of my survey, I'm happy to send it to you, and you can use it any way you like. So.
And if you guys would like to get a hold of Ron, you can email him at ronruth@discjockeynews.com. That'll go right to him, and he will then be able to get you a copy of that.
Right. I'd be happy to. It would be My pleasure.
It would be. It would be his way of serving you additionally
That's right.
beyond page 6.
And actually, if anybody has any questions about any of this, I'm happy to talk to them about it. I want to see DJs succeed. I mean, in any way I possibly can. If I can be of assistance, I want to help. So let me know.
Yeah.
I don't know everything,
but with our experience, we have learned sometimes by trial and error, sometimes by study, a better way to do a lot of the things we used to do very, very wrong.
Right. Never walk on glass and bare feet. Don't do that
exactly.
anymore.
Don't stick your tongue to the flagpole when it's 20 below outside.
Don't light a match under your hand. It's no.
Yeah, there's just so many. Good stuff.
So have we got any good questions? Do we have any time left, John?
We're gonna wrap things up here in just a couple of minutes. Questions they're talking cameras. When you were talking, getting into the part of doing the recording and such, they've been talking about Canon and different things. Some mentioned GoPro.
Yeah. I don't do that. That's it's like a $500-$600 investment. I'm not. If I set one of those up, a videographer is going to nail me for competing on every level.
Yeah.
I use a little and I wish I had it in the room with me. I use a little Panasonic video camera that's got an SD card in it. It cost me like $125.
Yeah.
It does great high def MP4 video, and it's non-obtrusive, and it gives again, I'm not a videographer, nor do I want to be one. I'm just trying to provide the couple with something that is fun for them, and they appreciate it. I mean, they're not looking for the high quality video out of me. That's not what they're paying me for.
Precisely. And I think your point that with us having less expensive looking gear or not, I have had that situation where I've had some better quality gear than a photographer or the videographer, or in one case both. And I've gone away from using. You won't see if you see us recording at a show, gang, you're going to see us running these Sony 4K cameras. You won't see me use that at one of my weddings unless my video crew is there using them, because it's just exactly like Ron said. I'm going to have a videographer who's going to see that, and
I think it's real important that DJs know too that if you're going to kind of an afterthought, if you're going to shoot video or take pictures at a wedding reception, make sure it's part of your contract that you have permission to use that video for promotional purposes. Because if that's not in your contract and it shows up on Facebook or something, and the bride and groom did not approve it in advance, I would still, before I posted, I would still ask before I did it. And if I could add one other little caveat, speaking of video and cameras, for me, I'm a real stickler about, if you want to enhance the client experience, and I know anybody that's 10 years younger than I am is just going to shoot me out of the water for this one. Don't be taking pictures and posting while you're on the job. No. Your focus should be on what's happening then. Those photos will look just as good when the event is over as they would during the event. How can you? I know. I'm old and old school, but just don't do it.
See, and I go a little bit different. Same concept, Ron, but I don't post virtually any photos from weddings myself, because I encourage my couples, when we've sent them pictures, to post them, because
I do that too.
When they post them, and I have gone through and put a little watermark, especially in some of the really nice ones. And I asked, here's some beautiful pictures from your wedding. I asked that you just tag me in these, so I can go and see that which ones you like the most. And it's been gold, because people will go and they put those up. I had one wedding where I think I sent her 150 photos, because it was just one of those nights where everything just seemed photogenic. Everyone did, I should say. Every photo went up, and she tagged me in every one, and her friends saw that. And the next thing you know, I've got some of her friends who are getting married who are now getting a hold of me and looking, and they're asking questions. So,
keep in mind, I mean, if you're doing this awesome job at the wedding too, I mean, you're going to have engaged couples that are going to be at that wedding.
Yeah.
And once the bride and groom starts talking about all the things you did for them, It's amazing the how easy a referral is in that sales consult, because they already have a pretty good idea of everything that it is you're going to do. They most of them, not all, but most of them will even already have an idea of how much your fee may be.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's the sticker shock. I hate that word, but for lack of better terms, the sticker shock isn't going to be there.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. Good stuff, Ron. Very good stuff.
thanks, John.
We'll put some of these notes. I think I've got a few notes that we can maybe put some of that in the description for folks. We've got a couple of links we want to share with some folks afterwards. So I'll probably get those in the morning, because it's that time of the day, gang, where I'm going to go tuck my children into bed. Well, I'll read a couple of books to them, then tuck them in.
I'm going to go work on a Wikipedia page for page 6.
Yeah, I think you should, because if you Google search it and then look at images, there's some weird things that.
Yeah, I need to. Yeah, I'm thinking Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is factual. I can put anything I want on there, and it's factual.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to do.
That's right. It was fun talking to you, though,
Yeah,
John.
no, I enjoy our times together. We had some good information tonight, and hopefully the folks out there that I saw a few picked up some ideas. If you guys, again, have any questions, feel free to contact Ron at ronruth@discjockeynews.com. He'll get in touch with you, and you guys can talk about things. If you're going to be in Las Vegas in just a couple of weeks, Ron, the website, how can they find more information out about the Audio Amazing Story workshop, I should say?
Ron Ruth, RUTH, ronruth.com/workshops. And if I realize that the workshop is for some it may be a little tight on budget right now. If you want to call me, give me a call. Let's talk about it. See what we can do for you, because I got a couple seats left, and I'd love to get those suckers filled. Ron,
we got one question. We've got 2 minutes, and then we have to wrap up.
All right.
The question was, if you've got a bride who is a referral, but she is wanting to do the same thing and the same price as the bride, maybe from a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, how do you handle that situation?
Okay, wait a minute.
She's a referral from a bride from, let's say, 2014. She's got a 2016 wedding, and the 2014 weddings told her that you were charging X dollars. This year, you're now charging X plus more.
I would. It depends on how much of a difference it is as to whether or not I would. Over a 2-year period of time, how much are you going to raise your fee? Like $100, maybe $200.
It could be more if you're booked at the it could be like 3 or 4 years from the.
Well, if it's more, obviously, if it's more, then yeah, you're gonna have to go with your current rate. But if you're only talking a couple of years and only a couple $100, I don't know how much I would. I would probably offer them my current rate, and if it's not that much more, they're probably not going to mind a whole lot. If it makes it, you only charge them, you can work out some kind of compromise. If it's a difference between $2,500 and $3,000, you can say, well, look, why don't we do this? I'll split the difference with you, $2,750. And here's the other thing. This actually is an idea that came to me from Mitch Taylor. If you don't feel, here's what I'm going to do. First off, I guarantee my services completely. If my clients are not absolutely thrilled 100%, I'm going to give them their money back. No questions asked. No, hardly any other DJ does that. You could say to a client, what Mitch helped me with a client not long ago. And I said, there was a difference. And I said, look, let's go ahead and we'll leave the fee the same as what I quoted you. And I think he wanted he wants $500. He wanted a $500 difference. And I said, okay, so here's the deal. If at the end of your wedding reception, you don't feel I was worth that extra $500, don't pay me for it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going to go kick some major booty at a wedding reception.
I have done that on 2 different occasions.
I guarantee you I will get the $500.
Yep. That's exactly how I handle it.
That's how confident I am in it. It's just, there's no way he's going to be able to say, well, you weren't worth that. And I'm not going to, and if he does say that, then I'm, okay.
Yep, exactly. That's their prerogative. And that's not exactly the way, but Brian, depends on the services. Depends on the service requirements for this little scenario that we just put together.
Yeah.
We're assuming that the similar in amount of work, similar requirements, similar services and such. So, Ron, thank you very much.
Hey, John, thank you. Have a great time, a great evening with your kids.
I will definitely do that. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to contact Ron Ruth, go to ronruth@discjockeynews.com, or you can go to, what was it, ronruth.com?
ronruth.com/workshops to get a seat for my workshop. And as I said, if you need to talk to me about the registration fee, I'm happy to talk to you about it. Let's talk. And don't forget, you can email me for the post-event survey if you want it.
Perfect. Great stuff, Ron. I'll see you in 2 weeks, my friend.
2 weeks. See you, John.
All right, thanks. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Thanks for watching. Good night now.